Good day. My name is George DeMarco. I'm the ESX Chair, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's ESX Experience webinar. It's called Your RMR on Steroids, Expert Tips to Power Growth and Value. We have a terrific event today featuring Larry Folsom, President of American Video and Security, Kelly Bond, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Alarm Capital Alliance, Mike Miller, President of Moon Security Services, and Bob Ryan, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing for ASG Security. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on esxweb.com. During the webinar, we'll ask our panelists to share their thoughts on today's biggest RMR opportunities and how you can implement them in your business to enhance the customer experience and improve your cash flow and your company's valuation. After comments from our final speaker today, we will then open the floor for a short Q&A session. To submit a question at any point during the presentation, just click on questions in the webinar window, type in your question, and we'll have our panelists answer it at the Q&A part of the webinar. Now let's turn to our panelists to get their thoughts on how you can best grow your RMR. We'll begin with Larry Folsom, President of American Video and Security. Larry, welcome first of all. You're in a unique position as both an integrator and owner of iViewNow, a video verification service. What do you see as the biggest RMR opportunities today?
So my alarm company is in Las Vegas. It's a commercially oriented company. It's a small, our focus is on creating recurring revenue. So the two things that we've really focused on are obviously video alarm verification, but also preventative maintenance. So from a video verification standpoint, a few years ago, we worked out a way to do this, and it was a little overwhelming. We couldn't, there was like so many opportunities, we had a hard time figuring out, which way to go. So we got very focused. We put together some particular packages aimed at small systems, and then we ultimately hired some small systems folks. It's a very interactive sale, and it's worked really well for us. What we find with it is that most of our end users are actually very interested in understanding in real time what's going on. So in order to do that, the sales presentation has been very interactive with the client so that they can experience what it's like. But when we started, we first brought it in. I've got a very traditional sales force, so guys were selling security, they were selling surveillance, and then sort of oh by the way. And the oh by the way with the fact that we could verify these alarms, put video in front of an operator, put video in the hands of that end user. So it was a cultural shift. We started small, but those packages helped us get focused. And then the new salespeople really helped a lot. And so some of the experience we've had is I've got one particular gal that I sort of focus on when I talk about it, but she's averaged more than $600 in recurring revenue for the last 4 months in a row, and she's only selling small systems. In fact, this month she's actually going to do a little north of $950 in recurring revenue just in this area, just in this particular area. And you can imagine that having her on the team and having that success had an impact. The whole group sort of adjusted their perspective on this, and it's worked really well for us. The other area that we focus on, it's not new, but it's worked really well for us, is quarterly maintenance. And so I've bought 3 companies that are plus the organic that make up American Video and Security. And so the first company I bought had a preventative maintenance culture. It's a test, inspect, sort of a clean, inspect, and test perspective where when we find something wrong, we're charging to fix it, but we go out on a quarterly basis. We include that with every proposal that goes out there, and culturally, it's normal, right? We think you would want to have this, and so culturally, the attach rate is very high there. And how we sort of do it is, you can imagine it's sort of a 15 minutes per camera, 30 minutes for the head end. You've got to make sure you understand if there's a need for a lift or if the cameras are far away from each other. But it's a very easy thing to design. We sort of price it out and include it. And what's kind of interesting as well is we've got some sites, I don't say systems because the system has evolved over time, but the company has relationships with some of these sites for more than 10 years. So it's sort of a gift that keeps giving, the preventative maintenance piece. And when you're looking at, how do you describe that to a client? Why are they going to want to pay that? A, we do increase the longevity of the system. And B, we pretty much explain in the idea that, you look at it like cleaning your glasses. if you didn't clean your glasses after a few months, you'd hardly be able to see through them, and that's sort of our perspective culturally on preventative maintenance. So the two things that have worked really well for us are video verification. All I could tell you is there's a lot of ways to do it, there's a lot of great ways to do it. Figure out what your assembly is, figure out what your market is, get focused, and look at that sales team. You may actually have to adjust or add, I'm getting older, so perhaps younger people to the sales team that view that technology differently. And then preventative maintenance. We see the world through preventative maintenance and include it with anything we sell that's camera oriented. And that's our perspective, George.
Yeah, Larry, thanks very much. And I want to make sure everybody understands that we're all getting older, so I understand that comment there.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks very much, and we're going to get some questions at the end for Larry here, but we're going to move on to Kelly Bond. She's a Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Alarm Capital Alliance. Kelly, ACA is mostly positioned in the residential segment of the security industry. What is your take on the biggest RMR opportunities?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I want to just address this mostly from a residential side, but also to explain too that this does impact the commercial segment of our industry. You know, as an alarm company, you obviously want to focus on growing your business, but you want to make sure you're doing so in a way that will be valuable in the long run. You want to understand how new service offerings impact your margins, how they may impact attrition and retention, how hard are they for you to market and implement into your existing business. Will the consumer use a service? Will this RMR be valuable in years to come? So I'm sure it's no surprise that one of the most recent popular service offerings in our industry has been the marriage of automation and interactive services to an alarm system. This brings the ability to remotely manage electrically driven items in the home or the business. You know, you can turn on your lights when you want. You can do it all remotely. The newest technology includes lights, locks, thermostats. It can also include additional items to that, but that's really the focus, where we're seeing most of our dealers, really try to glean in on that. You know, what does this mean for the consumer? It means more capabilities in managing their homes. It really means more use of their alarm system because it's something that they're touching in many more ways than they would have in the past. What does it mean for an alarm company? Additional RMR, and that's obviously what we're talking about. It also is lending itself to potentially lower attrition. ADT has done our industry a great service by introducing Pulse and marketing the heck out of it, and it really made consumers aware of the, this kind of instant gratification service that is available today. So the consumer now, as a subset of having an alarm system, can manage their lighting control, their thermostats, their locks. They can get SMS messaging, and ultimately we'll really focus this on energy management. And they can do all this from their smartphone, their iPad, PC, or right at the panel. So this really provides an alarm company an opportunity to create additional RMR. Right today, companies are charging anywhere from $10 to $50 or even more per month for the interactive services. And the technology-savvy consumers are eating it up. They love it, and they expect to be offered this when somebody comes knocking wanting to sell them an alarm system. So companies really, they have to focus on a couple of things. First of all, how do they market this to their existing database of customers? And I assure that, anyone that's an existing company out there that if you're not marketing it to your company, somebody else is, whether it's ADT over, many advertising mediums or, the local guy down the street. The consumers are aware of these products and they want to know more about them. So creates an opportunity for potentially a panel upgrade. Definitely, a new contract, but increased RMR. And, so you've got to you've got right in your own backyard a great opportunity. But, it should also be used in all new marketing materials. You want to let anybody that knows about you know that you offer these services. It's kind of the latest, greatest, cool technology. But through this, and probably the most important part of this is what the industry is seeing now is this is really creating a quote-unquote stickier customer. Somebody that's really using their system, they look at the additional RMR as value to them in what they're getting by being able to control these things. And it creates retention opportunities that I don't think we had even 2 years ago, because consumers want this now. They're using this in addition to the life safety piece. They're using this home management piece, as a daily tool. So it's very different than, oh, did we forget to arm our system? This is, have we checked our thermostats today? You also have to remember, don't wait for your customers to come to you. You've got to be proactive, because somebody else is definitely talking to them about it.
Great, Kelly. Thanks very much for those insights there. But I do have a follow-up question here. Your background has been on the valuation front. Are you seeing any specific RMR opportunities that are generating a bigger valuation than others? Is it becoming stickier out there, causing the valuations for monitoring plus life management RMR to create more value?
Well, what we look at first when you're evaluating a company is, one of the most important things is a company's attrition. And what we're seeing over the last few years of the interactive and automation services being, sold a lot more frequently is that the attrition numbers are lower. So, I can't say that this is creating an exponentially greater value just because a company offers these services, but I will say this: if their attrition has been lowered due to the fact that customers are using their systems more and they see more value in their system, then I would have to say that this element, the automation and interactive piece, are definitely adding to the value of a company, for a multitude of reasons. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. From an observation, anytime you can get systems, you can get consumers using their systems more and more on a daily basis, that actually helps to create a stickier relationship with the company, but also helps to reduce crime because people are using their systems more and more. They're more engaged with their systems, so that's a really good point. And if you can lower attrition, that creates a huge value for the company. So thank you for that, Kelly. Let's move on to the next gentleman. We're going to hear from Mike Miller. He's the president of Moon Security Services. Mike, you play in both the residential and the commercial space, and over the years, you and I have had many conversations on some unique RMR opportunities, especially in the commercial sector. What say you?
I could be in trouble here, but I may try to go just a little bit different way, but it'll include some of what Larry and Kelly have talked about. But just to give you a highlight here, we are in the southeast corner of Washington. We're in desert country. It's dry as all get out, and but we continue to grow. But I will tell you that I'm not satisfied. I have my core team in here in the conference room where I'm speaking at, and our goals this year is how do we be more profitable, and that probably should resonate with a lot of you. How do I grow my RMR? Because that builds equity. And Kelly spoke to something that we were just talking while we had everyone on mute, and that was the fact that we need 2 or 3 services so that we continue to have stickiness and keep that client. So where we're headed is trying to reach our existing client base so that we can grow our average RMR from X to $10, $15 more from that number. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be talking about what our RMR numbers are, George, but the issue for us is we're finding out that people don't know what the heck that we do. Some people will say, well, I thought you just provided security, or I thought you just did patrol and guard services, or I didn't realize you did video or fire systems, etc. So we're recognizing that this is on us. We have to be more proactive, as Kelly pointed out, and let people know just what the heck that we do. And interactive services is definitely something that we're working on. We are an iView Now provider, a videofied provider, and so it's allowing us to go out and ask for dollars on the RMR side that we would never have asked. You know, if we average $30–35 per month, and now we're asking for something that could be north of $100 a month in RMR. That certainly is growing our RMR base. It grows our equity base. It grows, or in this case, reduces our attrition, because now we're adding 2–3 services together, and it's harder for a client to say, well, I need to get rid of my service company and go with another security service company. You're alluding to something unique. We are in what I would call, we're a top 10 dealer for a company called AMS/Scram. It's a alcohol monitoring product that we use. And basically it's the ankle bracelet, so that when you drink, you sweat, and when you sweat, then those toxins go into a chamber on that ankle bracelet. And people pay daily fees, not monthly fees. So we call it RDR, not RMR. And so that allows us to get in front of all of the judges, court administrators, Department of Probation, corrections, and anything, diversion programs that are dealing with people that are having drinking problems and have experienced DUIs, and now get in front of the judge and say, guess what, you get to go on to these programs. So it's allowing us to deal with law enforcement and AHJs and building relationships up that way. There's probably some other questions that's come along, but really the issue here is you need to be mining your own client base more and more, and you probably have heard that for ages, but I think that's definitely a main area you want to be looking at.
Hey, Mike, thanks very much. Oh, hold on. About that, we had some feedback there.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a little better. Mike, thanks very much. I know over the years we've had some great discussions on it, and you've been on some cutting-edge and bleeding-edge stuff over the years, so thanks very much. We're going to move on to Bob Ryan. He's last but not least, but he's a Senior VP of Sales and Marketing for ASG Security. Bob, your company is involved with many different disciplines in the security space, from residential, commercial, and governmental, offering many unique services from video to GPS. What is your biggest RMR growth opportunity that you see today?
Well, thank you very much, George. And I don't know if it's the biggest one, but I think it's a very exciting one that is definitely worthy of a discussion here. The Residential Interactive Services platform is busy getting all the headlines and the hype out there. So one that you don't hear about as much, but I think is very, very significant for your bread and butter traditional alarm security company, is hosted video. And hosted video is, if you think about the world of technology in our industry, you got the big 4 categories. You got intrusion, fire, video, and access control. And year in and year out, the fastest growing segment in those big 4 would be video surveillance. Year in and year out is the highest growth category of all technology in our business. And I think the exciting opportunity today is that we're able to take that fastest growing category and convert it from a low margin product sale that it's always been to a high margin RMR service. And we've undertaken in the past 24 months to build a hosted video program here, where we've essentially looked at all of our business in the 10 camera and under system level, and have taken it from analog DVR model to cloud hosted subscription-based RMR service model for video, which has been very, very exciting. In our first 6 months, we sold over 1,000 channels of video at an average RMR of $20 per channel. And this has done a lot for us as a company, and I think the opportunity is that it could do a lot for traditional security companies. It's not very difficult to grasp and make the turn, but it's definitely more profitable for our company and for your company than the low margin analog video business. Decreases attrition, and actually to have attrition in the video space, you actually have to have RMR in the video space, and most analog video sales or even local IP video sales don't create the RMR that really is the lifeblood of companies like ASG and yours. Additionally, this type of service promotes a really good brand differentiation that you may not have today. You just might be another Me Too company fiercely competing for your share in your markets. And then if you look at your sales force, they're always looking for something new and exciting to sell. Hosted video, because it's a subscription-based RMR service instead of a product sale, provides higher commission opportunities, which drives greater sales force tenure. Very easy to sell and easy to demo, and represents, and I heard a minute ago about selling back to your base, a very, very powerful cross-selling opportunity. Basically, you can present and easily sell this opportunity to the same people that you're talking to every day already. And additionally, because it's new and I don't see a lot of adopters of this service, and I think that that's going to change soon, you've got a competitive window, an advantage over your competitors that you may not have today. You may have felt like you did with interactive residential services for a time, but I think it's fair to say now that everybody's doing that, and not everybody's doing hosted video. So you've got a space out in your local markets, if you can figure this out, that is really all to yourself. And for us, we're out selling this great new, exciting hosted IP video platform without a DVR at a very low cost of entry, much more reliable and higher quality. And our competitors are out there selling analog cameras and DVRs, so it's no longer the dreaded apples to apples type of sale. We're out there with something unique, fresh, and exciting that we have all to ourselves. I don't know what my time is here, George, but I've got a couple things that really I think are relevant. One, for us, it got us out of that broken low-margin commodity CCTV business that really produced no RMR, and now we've got a brand new category that produces RMR. So what it's done for us as a company is it doesn't just replace selling activity that we have today, but it's actually helped our company grow the overall pie, add to the overall pie. So if you have a sales rep, you know, I heard Larry talk about someone selling $600 a month. Well, if that's their average for intrusion, you know, we believe we can add $100 or $150 a month to a sales rep's productivity just by bolting on this this service in the video space. So this really has given us a path as a company out of analog video into IP. We're very, very excited about it. We've gotten a great return so far. And as with my counterparts here, we're happy to share how we've done that, and think it really provides great opportunity for everybody that's chosen to join this call today.
That's great, Bob. Great discussion, everyone. And we're going to be able now to turn to our questions. We have a lot of good questions that have come in. So I'm going to direct these questions to certain individuals. However, our panelists are welcome to answer if they feel they have something to contribute. The first one I'm going to send over to Kelly. You know, a couple of years ago, I went to Italy, and a lot of folks over there in that industry or in the security industry, they focus on safety, security, convenience, and savings. So they're looking at a holistic approach to approaching the residential space. What other notification services can be recognized in their ability to generate RMR that you're looking at?
Well, you know, beyond the ones that we've already talked about with the lighting and thermostats, and understand too that you can go pretty deep with that. You know, I'll speak specifically to Alarm.com only because I am a user of it. So I can, you know, say very clearly, I have my thermostat set up so that they are on a schedule, and because of that, I'm looking at that as energy management, and that's kind of the next hot item in the foreseeable future that at least Alarm.com I know is focusing on. So not only are you, you're managing your utility bill, but you're also, certainly it's a green effort, but what they're actually looking at for the future is an opportunity for, let's take a neighborhood, and you've got 20 houses in this neighborhood that use an interactive thermostat, and there is the new capability will be able to read the usage of all of these 20 homes in a neighborhood so that everyone can kind of look comparatively at what they're using versus what these other 20 homes are using, and understand, do they need to make changes to their current usage, or do they have an inefficient, heating or air system, or, do they need other services to help them manage energy better. I don't see that something as being, U.S. driven. I see it something, that's something that could be worldwide technology. I think it's exciting as a consumer to be able to look at that and manage your own utilities from that perspective. But kind of like what you were saying about what they do in Italy, as alarm companies and in our industry, we still have to be very focused on tying all of this back into life safety and the whole home management. We don't want to lose sight of why we're in this business. So that's one thing that I would really focus on. But another thing too, though, that I think is something that we still need to perfect in our industry. But there are, and these have been around forever, but these are water detection or moisture detection valves. But there are some that are a water shutoff valve, that it shuts it off at the main line. And, it's a little outside of the box because you have to have a plumber involved. But, insurance companies love this. They are starting to require, for somebody to be able to take advantage of an insurance discount. Some insurance companies are requiring that there's some sort of moisture sensor. So I think that's something, there are items like that, CO2 detection, low heat detection, all of those things, they're inexpensive, I think, from the consumer. They're all RMR driven, and they're all part of that home management, but, I think still a part of life safety.
That's great. Yeah, very good points. And the main point that I take from it is obviously, stick to the main part of the business is making sure you're providing life safety in all the offerings. So thanks very much. Bob, this is for you. How do you overcome bandwidth issues in a hosted solution as resolution levels increase on an IP camera solution?
Well, there's a few things, and I'm not the most technical guy in the world, but I've got great partners that have schooled me very well in this area, and it's not complicated. The compression, H.264 compression, really narrows the bandwidth needs of pushing video from a customer location over a broadband connection and into the cloud, and we're smart about it. Our system design pushes about 3 frames a second out to the cloud with H.264 compression, which takes up very, very little space on the customer's internet connection. And then we have a simultaneous stream locally over the customer's network that could be up to 30 frames a second to a high-definition storage drive. So the video that people need and want the most is usually when they're on the go and they're accessing what they want to see from the cloud using a mobile device. And for them, that 3 frames a second that we're pushing out is more than adequate. And if they need to see something at a more detailed or forensic level, they can request that from the HD drive locally. So interestingly enough, bandwidth really is not even our primary concern anymore. It's dealt with very easily.
Well, as a follow-up question, because I see a few questions on this subject coming in, Bob, are you managing it in-house, or are you going to host it, or are you using a third party to host this service? How are you handling that?
Great question. I know that there are some companies like ours that are doing the hosting themselves. I'm one that I really believe in, know your business and do what you do best. our business is not hosting video itself in a cloud and doing all the management, and we're not a software company. So we've got some great partners. For us, we're using Axis Communications AVHS video platform, and Axis has directed us to a really, really good hosting partner that we use. So we're still in the business of selling and installing and servicing systems, and then we have our world-class partners do what they do best, and that's work with us and provide that support. But all the interface to our customer base is private labeled ASG security. We've got the best people in the world doing the hosting, but our customers, all they see is ASG. It's passive to them.
Got it. Thank you. Larry and Mike, this question is to both of you here. Technology is moving rapidly, and there's so many choices out there in technology as far as equipment and services and whatnot. What kind of process do you go through to choose the technology that you're going to bring into your organization and use for your clients? Larry, you want to go first on that?
Sure. Probably the old-fashioned way. Our alarm company's in a dealer network, and we reach out to other dealers, find out what they're doing well, and then we always bring the technology in and bench it. Sometimes when the technology scared us a little bit, we went to sort of key accounts that we've got a long-term relationship, installed it as a beta there, but probably a pretty normal process. I'd say the first thing we do, though, is reach out to fellow dealers and try and understand what's working for them and what's not working for them.
How about you, Mike?
You know what, George, I'd probably say the same thing, and I alluded to the fact, I'll give you an example here. We are an iView Now dealer and work with Larry. And frankly, it does come to a relationship. I know Larry. We walk through the equipment and needs and the security solutions that were going to be provided, and then we did do some testing on it just to make sure everything was proper. But everything else Larry said was there. But it also comes down to relationships that you have with different people. And one of the nice things that what we're really doing here is providing a taste of what ESX is supposed to be about. And as far as my background is being past president for MBFA and ESA. And the issue there becomes one of not just being a member because you're doing something good for the industry, but it's also selfish, let's put it that way, where I will get more feedback, more information that I can share best practices with what other people do all across the nation at this location for the ESX event. And so, I've had instructions for my people that when they do go to different conferences and so forth, they're not to sit at the same table. They're not to talk to the same people and so forth. Not that I don't want you to do that from one aspect. From another, you've got to have the opportunity to go out and meet new people, meet new contacts, so that afterwards, after the event, and you go back home, you know what, I got this particular issue. Can I call Larry? Can I call Bob? Will he send me information that maybe might be of a concern locally, but since I'm 2,000–3,000 miles away, I get information shared with me all the time. I've seen P&Ls, I've seen policies and procedures, any of those kind of things that happen just because I was able to and willing to share my stuff with other people, and that's what ESX brings to the table.
Thank you for that plug, Mike, on ESX as chairman. I really appreciate that. I'll send you the check later on. Here's another question. This question is actually, we're going to throw this question both to Kelly and to Bob since they're VPs of sales and marketing. This is a really good question about there's somebody out there that is going to be starting a marketing campaign but are having trouble deciding what the best type of advertising is. They're active in social media, and they've tried a direct mail so far and are considering local television and radio. What would you guys suggest in today's marketplace? Bob, you want to go first on that?
Sure, I'd love to go first. I mean, for us, it's a little bit different, right? I mean, personally, what I believe is the most effective and gives you the most leverage for your investment. You know, you have to look at the grassroots of your company first. Before you throw a dime out there in media advertising or direct mail, which I believe doesn't work very well, direct mail, that is, not media advertising, I think you have to make sure that you're maximizing every opportunity you can to provide the best sales tools and resources and marketing materials to your sales force, to your feet on the street, before you go a level above that and start quote unquote advertising and marketing. Meaning, does your sales force have the correct demonstration materials? Do they have the right leave behind? Is your website, if they direct prospects there, is it up to snuff? All those things come first. And when you've really got that figured out, I think then that's the time where you consider these other avenues. Social media marketing, very, very important. Being able to manage all these sites where customers can give instant feedback and reviews, very, very important. It's almost that you have to play defense first. So that's part of it. But I would say you got to look at the grassroots, work from the bottom up. And if you're not doing that, you need to go there before you even contemplate doing anything else. And I'll turn it over to Kelly.
Thanks, Bob.
I totally agree with what Bob said, and you do have to be ready for any medium that you use, that you are on the back end a very strong performer. You can get in very deep with any radio, especially television advertising, so you better have deep pockets and a good goal when you start out the door with that. You know, and you have to remember too, advertising is not a faucet. I mean, you can't just turn it off and on. If it's not working, the first thing you do is change the message and make sure your message out to your very targeted audience is the one that is resonating with them. You know, you want to make sure, and you know, going back and kind of resting on this technology that I talked about earlier, but know too, what is your competition out there marketing, and are you capable of offering the latest and greatest technology to your new potential customer? And are they seeing from you this, you know, going back again, I mean, it's just kind of the cool factor of what is available in our industry today. So are they recognizing you because you have this technology? And then, and again, kind of going back to what Bob said too about your website, you know, you can do a lot of business search engine optimization or SEO that's leading people to go to your website. So you've got to make sure that your website is ready. You know, make it as interactive as possible. You know, and then to comment on one final thing that Bob said too, you know, if people are giving reviews, you need to make sure you know that give them an idea of what you're doing with those. How do they impact your business, and make that apparent to the customers that are giving their reviews. But you know, listen to them and put them in place in your business. But you know, just make sure that you're hitting your targeted audience well. If you're going to go in, if you're going to use the medium of radio and TV. You know, make sure that you have budgeted well, and that you are willing to lose some weeks of not having the phone ring without shutting it all down. Because you know that's the reality. It usually doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, that's great, Kelly. We also have Larry wants to jump in on there and answer this question too. So Larry, why don't you jump in there and give us some insights?
Sure. So the scope of my alarm company, it's a small alarm company that my wife and I own. And so as we've gone down the road, we've not had a really big budget to do some of this. And there's a number of ways we've marketed directly. I agree with Bob completely that the professionalism of your staff, the tools that you equip them with, really is the front line of this. One thing among a few that we've done is like Google Places. We claimed our Google Place. It was free. And then after each install, we were already calling the client to make sure they were happy. That was important to us culturally. And then about 2.5 years ago, we started asking them, hey, would you mind writing a review for us? And so we would email them the link to the Google reviews. And so those Google reviews, we now find that when people find us on the web, they've read those reviews. They're real reviews. I mean, they're really our clients, and it's been a very positive thing for us.
That's a really great point. Use the internet to help promote your company, and that leads me into the next question. Referral programs. Everybody talks about, we give great service, and probably the majority of people out there say, I get most of my new business from referrals. But do referrals really work to increase RMR in the industry? And if so, what kind of incentive works best to gain a referral? Let me give that to Mike Miller. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, certainly we give referral fees anytime we get a referral that sells. But what popped in my head there is back to interactive services. That's really cool because I got this cell phone. It's not as smart as some other people's cell phones, but it's supposed to be a smartphone. And the fun part is you can whip it out and you can turn it on and say, hey, you got to see this. And this is just a little taste of what we're doing, where it allows you to be able to have, just like what Kelly talked about, I want to turn on or up and down the heat or the air conditioning. I want to turn the alarm system on. I want to turn the lights on and all of that. I was at a function here a couple months ago where one of my customers said, hey, I want to talk to you. We got pulled away, but we come back together a few minutes later, and we had two other people there. And he says, guess what I got to do on my cruise? And he brings out his smartphone, and he's showing how he was able to turn it on and off and be able to check in and see what the heck was happening. And that was a great referral there that I didn't even have to ask for, right in front of two other people. I said, oh, let me take a look at that. And that's the exciting part, or the sizzle of what happens when you have the interactive services as one example. I'm not sure that totally answers your question, but I mean, that's just something that every salesperson and owner and anybody else that's got the smartphone should have this capability so that you can use it and you got more feet on the street providing referrals, referral fees and so forth, not just from other clients, but also your own employees.
Right, great, thank you. And that brings me to another question here, and this is for Bob Ryan. Bob, have you changed at ASG, have you guys changed your compensation plan to compensate or reward for all these new services that are being developed or being introduced into the industry? Have you found that there's a new way of paying salespeople as a result of all these new services?
Well, I mean, we place a majority of our commission emphasis on RMR creation. I mean, RMR is the oxygen supply here at ASG Security. So I'll just give this piece of advice, which I think is what you're asking for, is that when you create a new service like this, whether it's hosted video and you're generating RMR, or if it's interactive residential services, don't make the mistake of under-commissioning the plan to your sales reps. If they don't see it as a worthwhile investment of their time to go out and try to sell a new service, if the return is not there from their time investment, they will not sell it. I mean, these guys are coin operated. So we tend to have our commissions, it's less emphasized on the equipment end of the sale and with greater emphasis on the RMR, the backside monthly service charge. So as an example, with hosted video, we actually did put a little more juice into it. We increased it over the RMR creation that we would expect from an intrusion system because we really wanted to make a statement and get their attention to make the turn, because this type of sale requires a paradigm shift in the way they think, and it's proven effective. Because most of your activity, selling activity, is going to be from self-generation activity, so anything you commission additionally, you're going to save because you're not needing to invest on the marketing side. I mean, paying a rep a little more, that's better than any advertising you're going to go out and get or any, commercial you're going to run. Just motivate them a little more. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have another question for Kelly here. When you're charging extra for, or maybe you don't charge extra for it, but when you're doing low temperature water detectors or CO2 detection, are you charging extra for that service above intrusion monitoring, or are you including that in the intrusion monitoring fee?
Most dealers are using this as an RMR, addition. So it may be nominal. They may be charging, as little as $5 a month. Some it could be charging even less than that. But most companies that that I am aware of that are adding these services are in fact charging an additional, and it is specific to that service.
Right. How about you, Larry? Or what are you doing at your company in that regard?
Yeah, we started out, so our basic security system includes interactive and it includes cellular. I think that's pretty normal today. We view the verification piece as an add-on to that, and then the maintenance as an add-on to that, if that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. This next comment is a little bit, it's for me, but it's piggybacking on a question that I see in the window here. And I think Bob spoke to it very succinctly. But recently, when a crime is committed, such as the Boston Marathon bombing, video surveillance plays a huge factor in identifying the suspects. In fact, I noticed on the news in one recent incident, a young lady who was working at a gas station has gone missing and may have become a victim of that crime. The comment I heard in the media was they were surprised no video surveillance was being used at that particular business, at that gas station. And historically speaking, CCTV did not have an RMR component, which Bob spoke to it, and it was not valued as highly as security or fire monitoring. Bob, how are things changing from RMR opportunity, both as a revenue driver and evaluation play, but more importantly, do you see the media helping to sell video systems as a result of all this? When something does happen out there in the world, that people are referring to video all the time, it seems like.
A great question, and I unfortunately, horrific, incident that occurred. But I'm an internet news junkie, and I noticed 10 or 15 stories about the expected surge in video system sales that would occur as a result of that terrorist bombing, right? So I expect that absolutely to take place. You saying that a convenience store did not have a video system, that is incredible that that's the case today. There are many states where we operate, as an example, the state of Texas, where that type of business, by law, they must have a video system in there. Now, I think because of the lower cost of entry in a hosted video system, that it will actually allow for the increased proliferation of these types of services. And the most important part is that when critical video is needed to determine what happened, in many, many cases with today's analog systems with the DVR model, the first time you go to that DVR in a very, very long time is because something bad happened and you need to find out what happened and look for the recording. And unfortunately, in many, many cases, it's not there. In a hosted environment, it's guaranteed to be there. There's dual path recording both to the cloud and an HD device. And if that is lost for any reason, there's an electronic notification delivered to the customer. So a couple of different ways to answer your question, but I think that those incidents do bring greater awareness to the importance of video surveillance. And I think it's going to be easier to get and definitely more reliable when, when the moment of truth occurs and they need that video, it'll be there.
Right, and Mike, I was wondering if you can follow up on that. And by the way, before we only have time for one more question on this, but a lot of the questions can be answered at ESX, and Mike Miller, mentioned that previously. But there's so much information that you can get at ESX, not just from the seminars and the interactive work sessions, but also when you just meet people out there, these other professionals within the industry. It's just wonderful to get so much great information out there. Mike, from your perspective, how would you answer that question?
And Bob's right on. I did see the same articles that were talking about video growth for the next several years. Actually, what came into my mind, though, was not the Boston issue, but the Connecticut issue. And I know that we're always trying to position ourselves, and I think everyone does too, to be the go-to person. We have, as an example, because of the shooting there in Connecticut, and again, a horrific issue, but we have 13, 14 school districts that we work with, and already have started contacting them. They were already, some of the school districts were already getting with their police officers, police chief, the fire department, and already were letting us know that we needed to make sure that we were in there in that mix for the strategic planning for what do we do next, how can we restrict access, and so forth. And so you definitely want to be getting to your, not just the client itself, but the AHJs that will help you walk through that door and grow your business that way.
Right. And since I'm going to give you the last question, and this question can go to Kelly and to Bob, and because you guys are in multiple states here, but how are you dealing with navigating the licensing issues of these new technology? Are there more licensing required as a result of all these new technologies? And how are you dealing with that, if there are?
I'll answer first, Kelly, if you don't mind. I mean,
yeah, please go ahead.
You know, I think that technology is always ahead of the government's ability to create rules to govern it. You know, they'll catch up with us, right? I mean, now they want to tax the internet. But you know, most of the jurisdictions, I mean, they're definitely licensing our salespeople, our technicians, and all of our key employees on intrusion and fire services. That's been going on for a long, long time. We do a few states already licensing the installation of a video hardware installation, and I think it's only a matter of time that, you know, when they realize that we're storing, you know, sensitive video data at an off-site facility, they're going to get their hands around that too. So, you know, for a company like ours, we operate in 20 locations across 6 or 7 states. We've got a full-time person that deals nothing but our internal licensing of our people in our offices. And then you got to get into the whole licensing and permitting of your customers. So it's a extraordinary undertaking.
Would that be similar to you, Kelly?
Yeah, we actually, I was just going to say too, we have somebody that their focus is specifically on making sure that we are current with all the licensing, and we're in about 35 states, and you know, we have to make sure that we're in compliance everywhere. But one of the things specific that, you know, has been a challenge, I've certainly seen it in Texas, but you know, on the interactive piece are installing thermostats. I mean, that's something that has been a big issue. You know, who can install it, who can touch it. So you definitely need to make sure that you understand what, you know, what the stipulations are in your particular state. But yes, we, like Bob, we have somebody that's their focus. That's what they do, and it is, you know, it's just about a full-time job.
Well, great. I wish to thank everybody that attended this seminar, and especially thank Larry, Kelly, Mike, and Bob for doing such a great job. If you guys could hear the applause, you'd hear it right now. But to learn more about boosting your RMR, be sure to attend sessions in the RMR track at ESX. June is just around the corner, so it's time to lock in your registrations and savings for ESX 2013, June 17th through the 21st in Nashville, Tennessee. By the way, I just booked my airfare with American Airlines and received a 5% discount. So if you get to that, if you fly American Airlines, you get an additional 5% off there. So head to esxweb.com now and register for the Deluxe Pass for this year's event as soon as this webinar is complete, and for access to the discount promo code for American Airlines. If you would like to review this session again, recording of this webinar will be made available on esxweb.com.